You okay?
Oh, dude, I got pretty bad back pain. I'm actually not gonna work out today.
Well, you know what? You're in luck.
Why are your hands so cold?
Because we're discussing back pain today.
Oh.
They're always cold.
What's up, guys? I'm Victor, and that's my brother, Julian.
No.
Okay.
No. So today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. We're actually doing a frequently asked question episode. So we had you guys submit a few questions, and we picked 2 of them. So if you've dealt with low back pain or just back pain in general, and you're wondering what you can do about it or whether you can work out, stick around. And then we're also going to be talking about intermittent fasting and why it works for some people and why it doesn't for others. So if those 2 topics interest you, be sure to stick around.
In case you guys don't know us, I'm Victor, and that's Julian, and we are owners and personal trainers at BFit in Miami Lakes. So let's get started about back pain.
Let's.
You got any?
I actually do.
Eh.
All right, so before we start this, just a quick disclaimer. We are not pain experts, okay? Pain is a very complicated thing, and we don't claim to be. There are people that specifically deal with pain, orthopedic doctors, PTs, physical therapists. However, we do have a ton of experience with low back pain, people with low back pain, training and exercise and how to counteract or deal with back pain. We have a back pain expert in-house, Dr. Romy, so we'll talk a little bit more about him. And we are actually the perfect people to talk about it because I've had a lumbar herniated disc for over a decade now, and you just found out that you have a few herniations on your cervical.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, we deal with it ourselves every day.
We live this life.
Yep.
So don't get it twisted.
I guess the number one thing that somebody with back pain who wants to exercise is like, should I be exercising? Like it's scary to think that I have this debilitating, because back pain can be very debilitating, and am I making things worse by exercising? What kind of exercise should I do?
It hurts to bend down. What can I possibly do at the gym? It hurts to do this minor movement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The reason that back pain is a little more complicated than just any other pain is because we're used to a certain way of dealing with pain where, like, if I have something wrong with my knee or let's say my ankle or my foot or whatever, it's like I have a problem, I go and I address it, they fix that area, and then I'm good. With back pain, it's a lot more complicated than that. Pain in general is complicated, but back pain is a lot more complicated because there can be so many different causes for it. There could be an actual damage to your spine or your vertebral discs, and sometimes the ones that have pain don't have anything technically or visibly wrong with their spine. So it's complicated. And then the other problem is it doesn't always stem from your actual back. Sometimes it could be a problem in the hip, it could be a problem in your foot.
Your neck.
Because, exactly. So that's where it gets trickier, and of course, you would ideally want to be assessed by a professional. But all that being said, we're still gonna give you some tools and some advice if you are dealing with low back pain. One more thing I'll say about pain before we move on to like actual protocols is that one thing I've learned, because I've had so many injuries, including with the lower back, is that a lot of times when you have an injury in a place, that area becomes highly sensitive, and then even when the problem is quote unquote fixed, you continue to have pain for a long time because the area is super sensitized. It's like your body is giving you an extra signal of like, pay attention to this area, even though it's fixed. And I've had to learn that through like really good PTs, where it's like, hey, you're okay, trust me, you're fine, you can train, you can do your things. It's gonna maybe feel like the same thing happened when I got the hernia repair. It still felt like something was wrong there, even though it was completely like surgically fixed.
That's also your body, I think, is like used to feeling something there, so it's gonna send that brain triggered, like I might still have something. It's protecting you. Yeah. And then some things might feel good for some people with the same injury, so you can never definitively say like, oh, decompression or compression is gonna feel good for your herniation. It doesn't really work like that.
For sure, we're gonna talk about that because the disc can be herniated in different areas, and then so what might feel good for me, maybe bending forward will be horrible for you, or vice versa, bending back. So we'll talk a little bit about that.
Might not be right for some.
True. Different strokes for different
folks.
folks. Here's an issue that we deal with all the time, is very common, is, hey, I have back pain, I go to my primary doctor, and the doctor gives me a quick assessment, maybe sends me to go get an MRI or something, or an x-ray, and then go through that whole process. But in the meantime, they'll tell you, don't exercise. You don't want to make things worse, just like take it easy, don't strength train, don't run if you like to run.
Told you that once.
Oh yeah, a few doctors told me that.
Scared you.
And it's important for people to understand that there's a reason why doctors tell you that. It's because they don't want to be liable for, hey, I told you to, hey, keep strength training, keep doing anything, and then you get more jacked up, and now it's the doctor's fault. So they have every right to tell you that. But one thing, if you take anything away from this, is movement is medicine, right? So you don't have to stop exercising. In very few instances, do you actually have to stop moving and training. You just have to find the right type of movements and exercise to do. So, but there is, people come to us concerned and they say, hey, my doctor told me not to exercise, and we had to, it's like, hey, trust us. They're gonna say that because they have to say that, but I think every informed doctor, PT, ortho will tell you, you need to move. As a matter of fact, I want you to move. It's just, we have to find the, what's wrong and then how to fix it.
Yeah, they might even send you some exercises that you can try at home, or they might send you to somebody that they trust, that they know you're gonna do things properly.
That will assess you.
Yeah, because I wouldn't recommend, if you are fearful and if you do have an injury, don't go and try, just to do it on your own unless you're very knowledgeable what you're doing, because then you might, you never know if you're gonna make things worse.
Yeah, and it's also hard to, again, that's the importance of personal training or a PT or somebody like looking at you, giving you cues, because that makes all the difference in the world. If I tell you these 3 exercises are good to rehabilitate your back, but then you don't know if you're doing it properly, or you bracing your core properly, is your back flat, or you're in a neutral position, there's a lot of things where having the feedback is gonna help you a lot.
Even the way you walk, a good professional trainer or PT will be able to tell you, your hip twists a little bit here when you walk, let's try to adjust that. These are just things that we're not aware of our own body.
That's the classic Romy walk.
Yeah, yep.
Romy makes all his patients walk.
He makes them walk to the La Vaquita to get them a snack. But no, I feel like that's important to have somebody watch you, because you might be squatting for years and not notice you have a little sway at the bottom. So I feel like that's a very important thing to have somebody assess.
Okay, so now to the good stuff. What do you do about it? You have back pain. It could be like an acute episode or like chronic back pain. What do you do? First, you have to identify what the problem actually is. When does it hurt? Is it during exercise? Is it doing certain movements? Is it when you get in your car, when you twist your spine? And that's gonna be different for everyone.
Yep.
So identifying that is gonna be key. Once you've found that, if you are the type of person who exercises, again, pay attention to what are your triggers. Hey, I did a deadlift and that's really bothering. That just doesn't feel good on my back. So if you know nothing else, the obvious thing would be avoid the things that bother you. And if something else feels good and feels like you're stabilizing the spine and you're strengthening the spine, then do more of that stuff. And again, that's gonna change with everyone. Like for example, the deadlift thing, I am the type of person that I can deadlift. RDL sometimes hurt my back, but I have clients that they can do RDLs perfectly fine, but they can't deadlift from the floor.
Nope.
They can't back squat, whatever. So it really does depend on what the issue is and what feels good for you.
Sometimes you might be doing the movement and feel fine during, and the next day, you're like, damn, something yesterday jacked up my back. So it's up to you or to the professional you're working with to kind of deduce what it was. So I have a client who can do RDLs, deadlifts, everything fine. Hip thrusts are what hurt her, especially elevated back.
That's pretty common, yeah.
So I've tried to assess her. I've done several different things, and then I realized that when we do the hip thrust, the next day, during she's fine, but the next day she's jacked up. So guess what? No more hip thrusts in the program. Like, you don't have to do every exercise.
100%. And I would also add that it's not just exercises, it's movements and stretches, right? So my bulging disc, it protrudes to like the back left area. So wherever your bulging disc is protruding, the other way, it gives you a little bit of decompression. So for me, folding forward and even a little to the side feels good, but going back into hyperextension this way doesn't. So even like I used to drive a car that was like low to the ground, just that motion of getting into the car was hard. So again, it's like, yeah, it might feel good for you to go back, but for me, that doesn't feel good. So I wouldn't stretch into extension. I would do more folding type stretches. Mm-hmm. So what should you be working on? You should be working on, for sure, core stability. And that's very different than just training your core. It doesn't mean get on the floor and do a bunch of abs. Like, it's not necessarily that. Core stability, things like pale-off rotations, pale-off presses, farmer's carries, certain types of planks, side planks, regular planks, stir the pot on a stability ball. So a lot of stuff that helps strengthen around the spine and stabilize the spine. You want to definitely have a strong core, the front and the back. So all the muscles that, think of them as support for your spine, and you want to strengthen those. So of course we're talking about strength training.
Like the weight belt that people wear, but this one's on you.
Yeah, a natural weight belt. So yeah, you definitely need strength training. Again, we would always advise that you get assessed by a professional, either somebody like Dr. Romy, who's a physical therapist who specifically deals with low back pain. And what I would say is find a doctor who trains. Like seriously, you don't want to go to one of these doctors. Like when I had my back issue, I went to a spinal surgeon. And guess what he told me? You probably need surgery. Like, you can't play sports. You shouldn't be working out. You shouldn't be lifting heavy. And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? This is my whole life. And I was 25 years old. But a doctor who works out, who understands the science, who understands strength training, you know, pretty much 99% of them are going to tell you strength training is good. We need to strengthen you, but do these movements and maybe avoid those.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so now we're moving on to the intermittent fasting question.
Perfect.
So one of our clients said that her husband has been doing intermittent fasting for a few months and he's seen great results. He's lost a bunch of weight. He feels good on it, he feels energized. And so naturally she wanted to try it, but when she does it, she feels kind of miserable because she's hungry in the morning. She feels lightheaded, fatigued. It just doesn't seem to work for her. She's like, what gives?
Not for you.
Easy. Boom, solved.
All right,
next question.
I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm one of those people that I'm not a big wake up and eat person. I don't wake up hungry, but at the same time, I don't do well with intermittent fasting because I can't wait till a certain time. Some days I'm hungry. Yeah, some days I'm hungry and some days I'm not. Like, and when I'm hungry, I'm starving like she is. I'm like weak in the knees. I feel like a little baby giraffe trying to learn how to walk, but like you said, some people have seen great results with it.
Yeah, and in contrast, I can do intermittent fasting. I don't wake up hungry. I don't usually get hungry until like after 11 a.m. So I could very easily just wait till like 11:30, noon or something like that. So we should probably talk about what intermittent fasting is for people that don't know. So there's a few different ways to think about it, but it's basically restricting your eating to a specific window in the day. There are different protocols, but the more popular one is like the 16-8, which is fasting for 16 hours. You sleep through the night and then you fast through the morning, and then the remaining 8 hours of the day is your eating window. Okay, so it's just like a popular one. But again, there's all kinds of fasting. Like, there's people that eat every other day, which is kind of crazy.
That's crazy.
Like, they'll eat on Monday, they'll fast on Tuesday. Yeah, so
some religions fast for long periods of time, but they're fine.
Yep. I mean, there have been benefits associated with it, and we're definitely not going to get into the details of intermittent fasting here because there's a lot to talk about. But if you do want an entire episode on intermittent fasting, go ahead and comment below, and we'll go ahead and like give you all the details.
Deep dive.
Yep. So the next thing is, I don't know, I've been talking a lot, so.
And one of the reasons that IF, we're calling it IF now because we're cool, works for certain people is because it restricts the amount of time that they're eating, which obviously means that you have less time to fill your body with calories or with unhealthy calories. Giving yourself that smaller window prevents people from making bad decisions, I would say.
For sure, less snacking. And let's just use an example. If you skip breakfast, and let's say your breakfast, like the typical, let's not say the typical American breakfast, that's just preposterous, but let's say your breakfast is like 500-600 calories, which is pretty fair. You're skipping those 500-600 calories right there, and you're just going straight to lunch, and lunch is your first meal. How many meals can you have from lunch to dinner time? Like, it doesn't give you a lot of time to eat.
That's not a challenge, by the way.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that it's a challenge.
We do know people that can throw it down in just those few meals, but the important thing to remember is that people think like there's some sort of magic to fasting. Like, it's the reason I'm losing weight is because there's some magic to 16 hours. And no. You're eating less calories. That's what it comes down to. Any diet that allows you to lose weight is because you're restricting your calories, right? You're in a calorie deficit. But this helps people get into a calorie deficit because I don't have to maybe count calories. I just have to skip breakfast. For some people, it's like, oh, I could do that. I could skip breakfast. Like, I could just not snack.
Isn't breakfast the most important meal of the day?
Oh, whammy.
Something big cereal made up in the 70s.
Big cereal to get you to eat there.
If we don't have a podcast next week, know that Tony the Tiger came for us. Yeah. His gang, General Mills, and them boys.
Tony's my boy.
Okay, good.
I support him every now and then.
Oh.
Just not for breakfast.
Another reason that intermittent fasting doesn't work for me is because I'm the type of person that doesn't have a big meal ever. I'm like a micro eater. So let's say I get home and I have breakfast, and my breakfast, let's say yesterday was, I had 2 fried eggs and toast, and 2 pieces of toast, and that's it. And I was stuffed. Somebody, like our friend that does intermittent fasting, eats so much more than that. So I have this meal, then I eat again in like 3 hours, and I eat something small in 3 hours, you know what I mean? And that's.
You're a grazer.
I'm a grazer. That's what I do, I graze. But if for those people that like to eat a big meal, they sit down and have a 800 calorie breakfast, 1,000 calorie lunch, like.
Yeah, I can eat a big meal and then not have to eat for like 9-10 hours.
Yeah, like a camel.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I'm not that way at all, and then I start feeling faint. I start feeling weak, and
then you know what else complicates it is, let's say you work out in the morning and you skip breakfast, but you just like your glycogen depleted. In other words, your muscle, all the sugar and fuel that you have stored in your muscles is gone. Are you really gonna have to wait 3, 4, 5 hours? Let's say you work out at 6 a.m. a lot of people like to have some sort of nutrition right after, and honestly, it's recommended, especially if you weight train, to have some sort of meal right after that. Doesn't have to be right after, but you know, within a few hours. It's just better. Window. Yeah, it's better for protein synthesis and for building muscle and retaining muscle and all of that good stuff. So again, everything always comes down to it's individual based, right? It's like what are your specific circumstances. But what I would say is, if you've tried it and it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for you. Yeah. It's all good. There's no magic to it. You'll find your way of restricting calories if your goal is weight loss or something that works with your schedule.
It's the same with all these other diets. Like everybody, like the one guy goes on keto and swears by keto, so he tells everybody they have to go on keto. It's like, that's not how human bodies
not everyone can eat
work.
80% fat in their diet. Like people are going to be miserable. Same with like veganism or vegetarianism. Like you know,
if you can do it, power to you. But
yeah, if you're not doing it for like the environmental reasons, it's a different conversation. Some people might really struggle with a purely like vegetarian or vegan diet. So again, you got to find what works for you, but understanding the principles of nutrition is what's important. That's why we harp on the fact that you're just restricting calories. That's all you're doing. For some people, that might be, hey, I need to count calories, I need to count macros. For other people, it's, hey, I'll just skip, I just won't snack. Yeah. I think that's a pretty like.
That's a huge one. I won't snack, I won't drink liquor.
Exactly. Huge. Or I just won't drink liquor or liquid calories. Like those are just simple ways to restrict your own calories.
People don't even take into account. They'll go to their Starbucks, they'll have a 500 calorie drink, and then that's already like, that's a meal. We could have had a little meal.
Do you have any tips for people who are grazers like you?
I do. My tips are always have some sort of healthy snacks on deck. I have the benefit of living very close to a grocery store. And lately what I've been doing is I'll buy like a bag of grapes and some bananas. That way I always have something on hand, because if not, then I'm going to make bad decisions. I'm a bad decision maker. It's what I do.
As many of us are.
Yeah, so before I make my hash browns in the air fryer, I'll try to have a little snack and then see. And usually I'm satiated after that, because like I said, I guess I have a small stomach, so I eat a few grapes or eat a banana and I'm good to go. Like,
yeah, that's good, just being prepared.
Being prepared is number one. If you eat anxiously, have something like grapes, something like nuts that's like plentiful, but then also don't have the whole bag next to you. You could just pick at it and not necessarily like go nuts.
Yeah, true. So you can also control your portions by maybe having like, you know, a little Tupperware. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have the whole bag. That wouldn't be good for me. No. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, last thing I'll say is if you want to go deeper into your nutrition, we do have a registered dietitian on staff. So
somewhere here.
If you want to get to the point where you're doing something individualized and you really are just stuck or frustrated, give us a call. We have the dietitian. A lot of our clients work with her and have had excellent results. Like she's literally changed some people's lives. So yeah.
She changed your life.
Absolutely.
All right. Cheers, guys. Another day in the books. God, I'm teary-eyed. Look at this.
Did we do that Triple H? Oh, we didn't bring Evita in.
Evita. Look, Emma has back pain. And she still works out. So, be like Emma.
And she's only 22?
I'm 22, back going on 62. Yeah, it's very nice.
What has worked for you?
So what works for me is focusing on my mobility throughout the week. So I do my weight training, but I also work on mobility a lot. I see Romy frequently. And I go to acupuncture, and that's what has helped me. Tylenol and Advil. Tylenol and Advil.
That too, you know? Big Pharma sponsor us.
But do all the other things I said first, and then take some Tylenol.